put it under the trailing yarn and simply pull up a loop. You'll now pick up a loop just as normal in the next leg. And because we're doing a paired increase that is evenly spaced around this central leg, we're going to do another increase right following it. Again, straight through the fabric, picking up a loose loop underneath that trailing yarn, and now we move on and pick up in the next leg and the next, just as we normally would for Tunisian simple stitch in the round, and continue on. I'll flip the work when it's necessary, just as I did before. Again, trailing yarn pulls through 2, and I'll work my way right across those increases just like they were normal stitches. Right up to the end. Now I'm going to work my way on around, and I'll see you in a moment. And here we are. I rather like having this contrasting color yarn tied on. It really alerts me to the fact that I'm coming up to my increase portion of the mitt. You can see here, again, the yarn is tied to that central line of stitches. You can see one increase here, another increase here, and then you can also see a line of stitches to either side that are leaning out away from the increases. We want to keep those constant. We want to keep those a nice, straight, continuous line of stitches. And I'm going to place my next increase just inside of those. So here is my outline of my gusset, and the increases will go just to the inside of it. So, as before, pick up a loop in that continuous line, and then my increase is going to go right through the fabric to pick up a loose loop. I'll now have 3 stitches to work as normal: the previous increase, the central line, and the second of the original round of increases. And now I need to finish up and make my second increase, and I'm right at the right point to make that increase. So here we go. Second increase, pull up the loop as normal, and work my way on around. And we'll flip over and get that trailing yarn so that I can show you both of the increases paired around 3 stitches now in the middle rather than just the one. Alright, here's our central column of stitches. Here's our first increase, and there's our second increase, and there's the outlining column of stitches. Going to the other side of the central line, 1 increase, 2 increases, the outlining row. In the Paving Mitts pattern, after the increase rounds are worked, rounds 1 through 8 of increases, the instructions tell you to work around as usual on round 8, stopping at the marker. Here's the marker for the beginning of the round. We just finished pulling up a loop on this outlining row of stitches, the row that outlines the gusset, and now the instructions say to use the backward E-loop to cast on 3 stitches over the hook. The backwards E-loop is as simple as it sounds. You make a backwards loop. It looks like a cursive E. And there we go. There's my cursive E, and I simply put that over the hook and snug it up. Backwards E-loop again. They want to pop back, but just hold it in place, flip it over the loop, and in fact, many people will use their finger to simply make it and loop it. You do it however is convenient for you. Once you have those 3 loops on, the pattern gives you instructions to skip a certain number of stitches, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in this case, though in the pattern you'll skip 9 because you've done 4 sets of increases, and then work the next stitch. See, the next stitch is in that outlining row. Work the next stitch just as normal. Put the hook under the leg and pull up a loop. And you can see we have 1 loop pulled up on either side and our 3 cast-on stitches, which will work just like normal stitches as we come around. Now I'm going to keep working my way around, and I will work the trailing yarn just like normal stitches. When I get to those E loops, and here's the first one, I treat it just like a normal stitch. Might have to adjust the tension a little bit to make it easier to get around, but it's very doable and you should have no trouble with it. And then work your way on around. Here I've worked my way on around until I've come up to that cast-on portion, that cast-on over the gusset, and as I said before, I'm simply going to keep working it just like normal. No big whoop. Might take a little digging as you get that first round done, but you can do it and you'll do just fine. And then, of course, we'll bring the trailing yarn back through just as we typically would. I'm going to work another couple rounds now so that I can show you the decrease that helps the mitt fit better over your hand. Alrighty, we're right at the point where we're going to do a decrease. In the mitt itself, this decrease would snug up the edge of the mitt and help it feel comfy and snug around your fingers. The stitches we're going to decrease are the ones that were cast on. You can see it's 1, 2, 3, these right in the center. So I have one more to work, which, oh, by the way, look, that's still the one that's outlining the gusset. You can always track that. The Tunisian simple stitch 3 together stitch, which is what we're doing for the decrease here, is super simple. 3 together, that means 1, 2, 3 onto your hook and pull one loop through all 3 together. That's all there is to it. And now we'll continue working. Double check your work. You notice that that is the line of stitches that outlines the gusset on the left side. And you can keep working your way on around. And now we're just about ready to finish off the edge of our little mini mitt. We're going to end right at that central decrease point. We work our way right up to it. And now turn, and we're going to work our trailing yarn up to the end. And with that, I am going to I'm now going to end the trailing yarn, and I do that by pulling a loop just through the purple loop, the trailing yarn loop, and not through my remaining leading yarn loop. Break off my yarn. Sorry about that, I forgot scissors. And I'm going to actually keep opening up that loop until the tail comes right through. And now I've ended off my trailing yarn. So you can see that that's ended off in the stitch right before that central decrease marked stitch. What I'm going to do now is slip stitch crochet, not single crochet, but slip stitch crochet on around the edge. So I pull a loop up through and I pull it through the loop that was on. Put my hook through the leg, pull a loop through, and that loop goes through the hook that was remaining on the hook. Simply slip stitch like this. Let me get my tension a little better here. And I'm going to work my way all around. There we go. There's my tension a little better. My loop goes all the way through. The hook goes under a leg. I pull up a loop, and I pull that loop through the remaining loop that was on the hook, leaving me with one again. Simply work this way all the way through, all the way around the mitt edge. And this will give you a nicely finished edge. It would actually be perfectly adequate. You could pretty much stop right here if you wanted. But that is not what I wanted to do. As you get up to the first stitch where you started slip stitching, don't go through the leg again. Instead, you're going to end off that slip stitching by slipping underneath the two legs of the slip stitch that started it all. And now you can see you have a nice edge that goes around the tip of your mini mitt. This is a nice edge, but I wanted something a little more decorative for my mitts. And I decided to use a crab stitch, which is single crochet just worked in reverse. So here's how you do it. Using the same hook, simply go backwards. Instead of a single crochet you'd normally go to the next stitch, we'll go backwards and go to the prior stitch. Put the loop over the hook and you'll pull it up, and look, you've got two loops on the hook just like for single crochet. You pull a loop through again just like single crochet. Go backwards like I said before, and it's a little fussy at first. You'll get the hang of it, and I always take a moment or two to get the hang of it each and every time I do it. Pull a loop through. I have two loops on the hook, and I pull a loop through the two loops just like single crochet, except I'm going backwards. We'll keep on going, two loops, and as I get my act together here, you can see you start clipping right along. Your fingers relearn how to do this, and I swear every time I have to remind myself how my fingers want to work. Yours might want to go a little bit differently. Do whatever works for you, but you can see the process, and you can see that you get this little decorative, almost a picoed edge. We've gotten back to the beginning in our crab stitch crochet. In fact, you can see this is right where my first stitch occurred. So here I'm going to end off by pulling a loop up, and rather than doing another single crochet like that, I'm going to pull that slip stitch right through the loop. And again, break off my working yarn, sorry for that jolt, and pull the tail through, and later I can weave these tails in, and now I have a nice, very decorative edge to my little mini mitt all the way around.